Hey Fatheads, welcome to another Cigar Federation cigar video review. Today we're going to be viewing something fascinating, interesting. It's the Drew Estate Liga Privada, Liga Unico Ratzilla. Now, first off, a lot of people kind of refer to the Ratzilla as just a longer version of the Dirty Rat. But of course, that's not true. I mean, right from the wrapper down, it's a very, very different cigar. The Ratzilla uses a Connecticut River Valley stock cut and a Habano wrapper, uses Brazilian Matafina binder, and uses Nicaraguan and Honduran fillers, which is a pretty big departure across the board from the Dirty Rat. Of course, it's a different size altogether. It's 6 1/4 by 46. They call it a Parejo. And of course, it's got the pigtail cap you can see there. Now, this is a new product. Well, it's not a new product. I mean, these have been around for a while, but in limited quantity. So if you sometimes went to Cigar Safari, you might have gotten your hands on these. I think they date back to 2011, where they showed up briefly at the IPCPR. But they're officially launched, and they're a part of the Drew Estate, Drew Diplomat retailer program. So if you don't know more about that, you can check out the link on our review page. We've got more details there at the Drew Estate website. But this was sent to me and my fellow reviewers at Cigar Federation as a part of the blog package. So we got a number of limited release cigars to review and try out. This is one that I was obviously very excited about because I haven't had the opportunity to smoke. I don't know that I've ever smoked a Ratzilla, so this is kind of exciting. So as always, we're going to nose, we're going to toast, and we're going to get reviewing here because I'm excited to try this one out. So in the nose, just a rich cured tobacco smell with huge undertones of cedar. I mean, it's almost like a pallone of tobacco sitting on a cedar tray. Maybe a hint of leather, but it's pretty far in there. Quite a bit of sweetness off the foot, actually. Like a honeyed sweetness with a little bit of hay. Interesting. Well, 46 ring gauge is kind of I have a love affair with 46 ring gauges, so we're going to get to toasting and lighting because, you know, that's where I want to be in this review, so we'll get to that in a second. So when you're dealing with a smaller ring gauge like a 46, single torch is probably the way to go here because you risk really bringing way too much heat to the end of the cigar and burning the wrapper. It's always a struggle, you know, you want to light your cigar, but you really got to avoid burning that wrapper. There's so much money put into the wrapper, and it's unfortunately really, really easy to burn. Got a lot of cold weather today, so I'm just going to turn my lighter up. It's a pretty frosty January. So we'll give that a nice toast, again, making sure to keep the flame back. The trick here is you really don't want the flame touching the end of the cigar. You're dealing with a butane torch, you're talking flames that are 1200 degrees centigrade, which is just ridiculously hot. I mean, beyond the fact that you could potentially burn your hands, you know, that's obviously a bad thing, but the super risk here is you want to avoid scorching the wrapper and altering the flavor profile. They put so much work into making this cigar, you don't want to change. So I'm going to use a V-cut, even though it's got the pigtail cap. So I'm just going to slide the pigtail in there and give this a cut. Draws a little on the tight side, but totally serviceable. I'm hesitant to make an X cut on that just because the cap is so small with the 46 ring gauge. I think that's going to be totally fine. My initial impressions are quite a bit of sweetness, some delayed nuttiness, maybe a touch of spices coming through now about 30 seconds out. Rich spices on the retrohale with lots of sweetness. Very tasty. So we'll let the first third settle in, check back in as the flavors transition. One thing to comment on, which is pretty much true of you know, every Drew Estate cigar that I've ever smoked, is the smoke production. You can see I'm not drawing in this thing, it's just billowing smoke. It's not that it's burning too fast, it's just putting off tons and tons of smoke. Very satisfying to draw on. There's a little bit of pepper coming through in the draw, but there's loads of sweetness. So the pepper and the sweetness are really balanced. They're playing off of each other. It'll be interesting to see how this first third progresses. Coming up on the 10-minute mark, the Pepper's definitely building in intensity post-draw, but the sweetness is matching it strength for strength, so it's kind of interesting. You get this, big lingering pepper, but the sweetness cuts that out, and that's kind of what I've come to expect from a Connecticut River Valley Habano, is that it's got a lot of body to it. It's got some pepper to it, but it's also got this rich sweetness to it, which is nice. There's a little bit of post-draw leather that's developing, but the pepper's so dominant here, like a medium plus, that the leather really doesn't have a chance to get hold. So we've got a lot of cigar to go here. I'll check back in and see how it goes. So this cigar definitely started out much lighter than what it's building to in the first third. Everything about the flavor profile is hitting a medium plus level, so tons of pepper on the retrohale, which is really lingering between retrohales. Lots of pepper post-draw, again lingering, but there's this rich sweetness that's balancing it out, and they're playing off of each other between draws, which is probably a good thing, because otherwise I think you just puff on this thing, which would be the wrong way to go, because it is a pretty tasty cigar and you're going to lose a lot of the nuances. So I'll keep checking back in. Coming up on the 40-minute mark, the leather, which post-draw started out very light and being run over by the sweetness and the pepper, has really come to the forefront at this point. I'd say it's actually running over the pepper, but that's pretty tough because the pepper is a medium plus. So I would say it's probably at the same strength level as the pepper, but they're kind of, one is dominating one particular draw and the other is dominating the next draw. So, you can't really put your finger on one being more dominant than the other. There's kind of switching places from draw to draw. I've still got quite a bit of cigar to go here. Probably another 20 minutes or so to get into the middle third. So we'll see if there's any other flavor changes before it gets into the middle third. Past the 50-minute mark here, the leather's kind of fallen away a bit. So it was very dominant for about 10 or 15 minutes, and now it's kind of fallen back into line with the rest of the flavors. I'm not sure if there's going to be any other transitions before we get into the middle third here, but almost to the middle third, I'm definitely feeling the overall strength of this cigar for sure. I kind of wish I had a cola to pair with here. A root beer or a Coke would be good, because this is definitely a cigar you don't want to take for granted. I mean, it is a smaller ring gauge, but that doesn't mean this cigar doesn't pack a lot of power, because it does. So I'll keep checking in. If there's any other flavor transitions before the middle third comes in, I'll make note of it. Past the 1 hour mark now, I think the primary transition, if there's a transition going from the first third to the middle third, is that the cedar, which I think was quite subtle in the first third, has really stepped up. I don't know if it's necessarily displacing any of the flavors, but it's certainly making itself far better known in the middle third here in terms of strength. It's about a medium level. Offsets a lot of the pepper and leather. In fact, I'd say the peppers really fall into a medium minus here. The retrohale is a lot creamier, and instead of finishing with that bite of pepper, it finishes with the cedar creaminess, which is quite enjoyable. Hour and 25-minute mark, the leather is back, and the cedar and leather are really dominating the profile. They're playing off of each other. The creaminess is there, and it does offset the leather nicely, but they are playing off of each other in the draw. The retrohale is a spicy, creamy cedar. It's very nice. Doesn't bite you. Finish is nice. I mean, you can pretty much retrohale every other draw here in the middle third without much risk. I'd be interested to see if there's any other changes before it gets into the final third. We've still got about 10 or 15 minutes here before it gets into the final third. Passing the hour and 30-minute mark, there's some earthiness that's coming through now. It is dominating the palate a bit, especially in the post-draw. There's just a lot of rich earthiness there. I'm not sure if it's going to give way as it gets into the final third, but in the past I've smoked Unicos that have had a bit of earthiness, and the earthiness tends not to last. So we'll see if this keeps up, and check back in the final third here. So as we wind down the middle third here, one of the things I haven't really talked about is pairing. As I mentioned to start, I think cola is a natural pairing here. Dr. Pepper, root beer, Coke. I think sweet tea would probably be run over. Anything with a lot of fruitiness in it would probably not be a good pairing combination. Bourbon would be an easy one here. I think the sweetness coupled with a little bit of the spices and pepper from a bourbon would be a great pairing combination. You could probably also go with rum, but I don't think rum has enough body to it to stand up to a cigar like this. Maybe go with, if you're looking for beer, Scotch ale maybe, or possibly a stout, although, stouts tend to be pretty full-bodied and you might lose a lot of the nuances in this cigar. As I start to get into the final third here, the earthiness is dropping off, largely in part to the sweetness kind of pushing back. It is a bit of an odd combination. I don't think the sweetness and the earthiness really go well together. And there's almost an acrid quality to the earthiness. Again, I kind of had that in some Unicos in the past, and it doesn't last very long. I'd imagine it's probably going to drop off pretty quick here. Probably have another maybe 20-25 minutes here in the smoking experience. So finish up around the 2-hour mark, which I think is about right. But for a 6x46, you can again smoke faster if you want to, if you're in a warmer environment or more humid environment. But the risk is always that smoking faster, you lose a lot of the nuances in the cigar. And given how difficult some of the Unicos are to get your hands on, you definitely want to take your time and enjoy this particular cigar. Wrapping up the review of the Liga Privada Unico Ratzilla. I'm a big fan of a lot of the Unico releases. This is another one that I'm enjoying very much. The Unicos do have a bit of a mystique to them, mostly because of the availability. But the price point on them is, perfectly reasonable for a cigar that is hard to find in the market. If you find you can get your hands on these, I'm sure you'll want to try these if you are a fan of the Unico. This is going to fit right into the rest of the profile of the Unicos. Definitely enjoyed the opportunity to smoke and review this because I don't know when I'm going to get my chance to get my hands on more of these. Appreciate everyone who's tuned in to watch the review. We're going to be doing a group review of this on CigarFederation.com, so you'll definitely want to check that out. And as we always say, if you enjoy the content, appreciate it if you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And thanks so much for checking out this review, CigarFederation.com.